Welcome to today's lecture, which should prove to be an ethical roller coaster where we'll explore the wild frontier of marketing ethics. Think of this as a Marvel movie of business ethics courses. Except, instead of superheroes battling villains, we have marketers battling regulators, with consumers caught somewhere in the middle. This will be a comprehensive exploration of marketing, technology, and ethical considerations that arise at their intersection. This lecture examines how commercial speech is regulated, the economics of advertising, and the complex ethical issues surrounding marketing practices, particularly those targeting vulnerable populations. We'll investigate the balance between free market principles and consumer protection, examining both government regulation and industry self-regulation. Throughout today's discussion, we'll consider multiple ethical perspectives and analyze real-world cases that highlight the tensions between profit motives and social responsibility. Let's talk first about the First Amendment's complicated relationship with advertising. It's rather like how your parents treated your high school boyfriend, tolerated but with lots of restrictions. Pure speech, like expressing political opinions, gets the VIP treatment in constitutional protection. Think of it as flying first class in the free speech airplane. Political expression sits comfortably in business class, but commercial speech, that's definitely in the economy with a middle seat. The Supreme Court established the Central Hudson test to determine when the government can regulate commercial speech. It's a four-part test that asks, 1, is the speech lawful and not misleading? 2, does the government have a substantial interest in regulating it? 3, does the regulation directly advance that interest? And 4, is regulation no more extensive than necessary? The tobacco discussion. The industry that's given ethics professors job security for decades. The FDA, in its notable quest to make smoking look as appealing as a root canal, required graphic warning labels on cigarette packages. Picture a diseased lung taking up 50% of that sleek cigarette packaging. Not exactly the Marlboro Man image the industry was going for. R.J. Reynolds and friends cried foul, claiming this violated their First Amendment rights. Essentially, they argued, you can't make us tell people how deadly our products actually are. That's unconstitutional. And surprisingly, the court agreed, finding the FDA's regulations were too broad. Internationally, the Framework Convention on Tobacco Control addresses marketing practices, which raises an interesting ethical question. If we won't let tobacco companies market freely to Americans, is it ethical for them to use even more aggressive tactics in developing countries? Sort of like saying, we won't let you sell your dangerous product to our kids, but those kids over there are fair game. This case perfectly illustrates the tension between public health goals and commercial speech rights. It also shows that companies will fight tooth and nail against regulations that might damage their bottom line, even when those regulations aim to prevent actual, literal death. Time for some economic theory. No, don't fall asleep on me yet. I promise this is the interesting kind. Traditional economic theory views advertising as purely informational, just little helpful messages letting rational consumers know about products they already wanted. It's adorably naive, like believing your cat actually loves you rather than viewing you as the opposable thumbed food provider. Then along came John Kenneth Galbraith, winning his party-pooping critique. Galbraith suggested that advertising doesn't just inform us about products, it creates artificial desires for things we never knew we needed. Did you really want that smart water bottle that tracks your hydration and syncs to your phone? Or did a marketer convince you that your regular water bottle was tragically analog? Galbraith pointed out the startling contrast between private affluence and public squalor. We're buying diamond-encrusted phone cases while bridges are collapsing. We're spending millions on anti-aging creams while public parks deteriorate. It raises profound questions about resource allocation and sustainability. Next time you find yourself desperately wanting the newest iPhone when your current one works perfectly fine, ask yourself, is this a genuine need? Or did Apple's marketing department implant this desire in my brain? And yes, I'm also asking myself this question too, as I stare longingly at the latest MacBook Pro, despite my perfectly functional laptop. Let's talk about the FTC, the mall cops of the advertising world. They might not have the most intimidating presence, but they do have the power to make your company's day very, very bad. The Federal Trade Commission enforces the FTC Act, which prohibits deceptive and unfair practices in advertising. Their definition of deception is when an advertisement misleads reasonable consumers about material information. The key word here is reasonable. The FTC doesn't protect consumers who might believe an energy drink literally gives you wings. Though I'm still disappointed about that if I'm being honest. Take the Wellness Support Network case, where the FTC cracked down on false health claims targeting diabetics. The company claimed their products could treat diabetes based on scientific principles, which turned out to be as scientific as my aunt's crystal healing sessions. Just kidding. Online scams present particular challenges for the FTC due to jurisdictional issues and the ease of creating seemingly credible websites. It costs almost nothing to set up a professional-looking website claiming your magic beans cure cancer, but it costs the FTC significant resources to shut you down. So, if you're thinking of launching the next miracle weight loss tea that melts fat while you sleep, remember, the FTC might be slow, but they're watching. And their cease and desist orders are not suggestions. They come with financial penalties that will definitely not help your business's profits. If the FTC is the mall cop of advertising regulation, the Lanham Act is like arming all the store owners with the pepper spray to police each other. It's regulation through mutual suspicion. The Lanham Act empowers competitors to sue each other over misleading claims, complementing the FDA regulation in an example of regulatory teamwork. While the FDA focuses on health and safety through federal oversight, the Lanham Act enables companies to essentially say, hey, that's not fair, when their competitors make dubious claims. The Palm Wonderful versus Coca-Cola case illustrates this dynamic. Palm Wonderful, makers of pomegranate juice, sued Coca-Cola over a pomegranate blueberry Minute Maid product that contained a whopping 0.3% pomegranate juice and 0.2% blueberry juice. The rest, mostly apple and grape juice. Talk about creative naming. Justice Kennedy viewed these regulatory systems as complementary. The FDA establishes floor requirements for health and safety, while competitors can raise the ceiling through litigation. It's like having both police officers and neighborhood watch keep an eye on things. This dual approach potentially provides more effective prevention of misleading food labels, as competitors have financial incentives to monitor each other's claims. After all, nothing motivates a corporation like watching a competitor get away with something they can't. Remember, in business, your most vigilant regulator might not be the government. It might be your fiercest competitor who's just waiting for you to make a claim that stretches the truth. Industry self-regulation is like letting students grade their own papers. What could possibly go wrong? Organizations like the Children's Advertising Review Unit establish standards for responsible marketing, particularly for those vulnerable audiences like children. These voluntary guidelines aim to prevent deceptive or inappropriate advertising practices without government intervention. It's the industry's way of saying, look, we can behave ourselves, no need for those pesky regulations. The Children's Food and Beverage Advertising Initiative has shown some success in improving food marketing to children. Companies pledge to advertise only better-for-you products to kids, though their definition of better for you might still raise nutritionists' eyebrows. Consumer advocates, however, remain skeptical about self-regulation. They point out that compliance is voluntary and enforcement mechanisms are limited. It's like having a speed limit but no traffic cops and no tickets. Just strongly worded letters saying, we noticed you were driving 90 in a 55 zone. Please consider slowing down if it's convenient for you. The fundamental question here is, can we trust industries to effectively police themselves when profit motives often directly conflict with ethical marketing practices? History suggests the answer is somewhere between occasionally and rarely. Marketing to children raises ethical red flags taller than a toddler reaching for cookies on the top shelf. Let's start with cognitive development. Children lack the critical thinking skills to evaluate advertising claims, making them particularly vulnerable to persuasive techniques. Young children can't even distinguish between programs and commercials. It's all just colorful entertainment to them. Imagine being that impressionable. Actually, some of us might still be when we see those Instagram ads at 2 a.m. I might or might not be guilty of that. Health implications are especially concerning. Marketing of unhealthy foods contributes to childhood obesity and establishes poor dietary habits that can last a lifetime. When was the last time you saw a slick, big-budget commercial for, say, broccoli? Yet sugary cereals get cartoon mascots, catchy jingles, and prime TV spots. The targeting techniques are increasingly sophisticated. Cartoon characters, celebrities, and interactive digital engagement build brand loyalty before children can even spell manipulation. Companies know that if they can hook consumers young, they might have consumers for life. Perhaps most insidiously, advertising that encourages children to pressure parents for purchases, the dreaded pester power, undermines parental authority and family dynamics. Nothing says quality family time like a screaming match or a temper tantrum in the cereal aisle. Research shows that even brief exposure to food advertising can influence children's food preferences. It's not just about one purchase, it's about shaping lifetime consumption patterns. What started as simple TV commercials has morphed into an omni-channel assault on young consumers' attention. From product placement in movies to influencer marketing on YouTube to branded mobile games, marketers have become increasingly creative in reaching children. The tactics have changed, but the message remains consistent. Sugary, salty, highly processed foods are fun, cool, and will make you popular. Broccoli, on the other hand, continues to lack a catchy theme song. Digital marketing presents a particular challenge for regulation, as it's harder to monitor and it often blurs the line between entertainment and advertising. A child playing a branded game on a cereal company's website may not recognize it as marketing. They're just having fun with their favorite cartoon character who happens to be selling them breakfast. Cross promotions between food products and popular entertainment franchises creates powerful alliances that are hard for both children and parents to resist. When your child's favorite superhero appears on a box of cookies, you're not just saying no to a snack, you're saying no to Iron Man. That's a hard battle for parents, right? The evolution continues as marketers stay one step ahead of regulators and concerned parents. It's like a never-ending game of whack-a-mole, except the moles are getting smarter, faster, and have bigger marketing budgets. Schools used to be commercial-free zones. Now they're starting to look like NASCAR vehicles covered in corporate logos. From exclusive beverage contracts to sponsored educational materials, corporations have established a significant presence in educational institutions. Programs like Channel One deliver advertising directly to captive student audiences in exchange for equipment or funding. It's brilliant from a marketing perspective. Where else can you find an audience legally required to show up and pay attention? The infamous Coca-Cola Coke Day contest exemplifies how marketing can become integrated into educational activities. Schools competed to win cash prizes by developing the most creative ways to distribute Coke promotional materials. One student was actually suspended for wearing a Pepsi shirt on Coke Day. Talk about brand loyalty enforcement. Supporters of these partnerships argue that they provide essential resources for underfunded schools. Sure, we're exposing impressionable minds to commercial messaging during their formative years, but look at these shiny new computers that every student gets. Critics counter that schools should be commercial-free zones where students can develop critical thinking skills without marketing influence. This debate reflects broader tensions between educational ideals and economic realities. In an ideal world, we'd fully fund education without corporate assistance. But in reality, many schools face budget shortfalls and see corporate partnerships as necessary compromises. Remember when the biggest commercial decision in school was whether to get chocolate or regular milk? Those were much simpler times. There are some troubling numbers that reveal patterns that are more obvious than product placement in movies. Major food companies spent a whopping $675 million on Spanish television advertising and $161 million on black targeted TV. Meanwhile, they allocated just $10 million and $2 million respectively on advertising healthier products to these same audiences. That's not just a gap, that's a canyon. These disparities raise serious ethical concerns about targeting vulnerable populations with potentially harmful products. Companies are spending over 67 times more promoting junk food than healthy options to Hispanic audiences and about 80 times more to Black audiences. Companies might justify these practices as simply responding to market demand or reaching untapped consumer segments. But when these marketing patterns potentially contribute to health disparities in communities already facing higher rates of obesity and diabetes, we're moved beyond normal business practice into ethically questionable territory. This targeting isn't random, it's strategic and deliberate. Companies conduct extensive research to understand which demographics respond to which messages, then allocate their budgets accordingly. The question is whether profit motives should trump social responsibility when public health is at stake. Only in America, and New Zealand, oddly enough, can you watch a beautiful couple frolicking in a meadow while a gentle voice lists potential side effects including sudden death and spontaneous liver failure. It's pharmaceutical marketing, and it's a uniquely American phenomenon. Pharmaceutical companies spend billions on television advertising that presents medications in idealized contexts. You've seen them, attractive middle-aged people suddenly able to play tennis or attend garden parties thanks to drugs treating conditions that you never knew existed. Meanwhile, the side effects are rattled off at auctioneer speed while the happy imagery continues. DTC advertising fundamentally changes the doctor-patient relationship. Instead of physicians prescribing based solely on medical expertise, patients arrive with specific requests influenced by marketing. Doc, I heard about this commercial that said a pill will help me attend outdoor barbecues while I'm wearing white linen. Just kidding. The FDA requires risk information disclosure, but questions remain about whether typical consumers can adequately process this technical information. How many of you actually understand what non-infectious polymyositis means when it's mentioned as a potential side effect? The United States and New Zealand, standing alone in permitting direct-to-consumer pharmaceutical advertising, raises an important question. Does the rest of the developed world know something we don't? Are we uniquely enlightened or uniquely misguided? The learned intermediary doctrine sounds like something from a Harry Potter book, but it's actually a legal principle with significant implications for pharmaceutical marketing. Traditionally, drug manufacturers were only required to warn physicians, the learned intermediaries, about medication risks, not patients directly. The assumption was that doctors would filter this information and make appropriate recommendations. It's like when your friend says, "Let me tell you about this movie, but I'll leave out the parts that might freak you out." Then along came direct-to-consumer advertising, and with it, the Perez versus Wyeth case. This landmark case challenged the doctrine, arguing that when manufacturers bypass doctors and advertise directly to consumers, they create a direct relationship with patients and should therefore have a direct duty to warn them. The New Jersey Supreme Court agreed, ruling that the learned intermediary doctrine doesn't apply when manufacturers advertise directly to customers. It's like saying if you're going to slide into consumers' DMs, you can't pretend the relationship doesn't exist. Despite this ruling, most states continue to uphold the traditional learned intermediary doctrine, limiting manufacturing liability. It's one of the many examples where the law struggles to keep pace with the evolving marketing practices. The American Medical Association has actually called for banning DTC drug advertising altogether, citing concerns about its impact on prescribing practices and healthcare costs. Meanwhile, the pharmaceutical industry defends it as educational and empowering for patients. The debate continues, much like those side effects at the end of the drug commercials. If you think pharmaceutical companies only market to consumers, you're missing the main event. Marketing to physicians is where the real action happens. And ProPublica's Dollars for Docs project has pulled back the curtain on this practice. The findings are troubling. Doctors receiving industry money tend to prescribe more brand name medications than those who don't, with prescribing rates increasing alongside payment amounts. It's a correlation that raises uncomfortable questions about medical decision making. Is that prescription based on your best medical interest or on the fancy dinner your doctor enjoyed courtesy of the drug manufacturer? The industry defends these relationships as educational. Pharmaceutical representatives educating physicians about new treatments. Critics contend they compromise physician objectivity and may not serve patients' best interests. It's the difference between, "Let me tell you about this revolutionary new medication," and "Let me tell you about this revolutionary new medication over lobster at a 5-star restaurant." Some doctors receive hundreds of thousands of dollars in consulting fees, speaking engagements, and research funding from the pharmaceutical companies. And while disclosure requirements have improved transparency, the fundamental ethical question remains: can healthcare providers maintain objectivity while accepting significant financial benefits from the very company whose products they're evaluating? Welcome to Marketing in the Digital Age, where your refrigerator knows you're out of milk before you do, and your search history follows you around the internet like a clingy ex. Transparency has never been more important or more elusive. Clear disclosure of advertising relationships, data collection practices, and potential conflicts of interest is essential for maintaining consumer trust. When that Instagram influencer raves about a product, is it because they genuinely love it or because they received a hefty payment? Consumers deserve to know. Vulnerable populations require special protection in this digital landscape. Children, the elderly, and other groups may be particularly susceptible to sophisticated digital marketing techniques. When your technologically challenged grandmother can't tell the difference between a news article and an advertorial, we have an ethical problem. Ethical oversight requires a combination of government regulation, industry self-regulation, and informed consumer advocacy. No single approach can address all the challenges of digital marketing ethics. Companies must consider the ethical implications of their marketing practices across all markets, not just in regions with strong regulatory frameworks. The temptation to exploit looser regulations in developing countries must be resisted in favor of consistent global ethical standards. As technology continues to transform marketing practices, ethical considerations become increasingly complex. From targeted advertising based on personal data to influencer marketing that blurs the line between authentic content and paid promotion, new challenges emerge daily that require thoughtful analysis from multiple ethical perspectives. As we wrap up our ethical expedition through the wilderness of marketing practices, let's review some key points. 1. Commercial speech receives limited First Amendment protection, allowing for regulation of deceptive or harmful advertising practices. Advertising doesn't just inform, it shapes desires and consumption patterns, raising questions about its economic and social impact. 3. Regulatory frameworks include government oversight, like the FTC and the FDA, competitor lawsuits, like the Lanham Act, and industry self-regulation, each with strengths and limitations. 4. Vulnerable populations, particularly children and minority communities, require special ethical consideration in marketing practices. 5. Direct-to-consumer pharmaceutical advertising and physician marketing raise unique ethical concerns about healthcare decision-making. And 6. Digital marketing creates new ethical challenges related to privacy, transparency, and the increasing sophistication of persuasive techniques. The ethical marketer in today's environment needs to navigate between what's legal, what's profitable, and what's right. And those three aren't always aligned. Regulatory compliance represents the floor, not the ceiling, of ethical marketing. As future business leaders, you will face these dilemmas directly. The decisions you make will impact not just your bottom line, but also the well-being of consumers, the integrity of information ecosystems, and the health of vulnerable communities. The most successful brands in the long run aren't just those that master persuasion. They're those that earn genuine trust through ethical practices that respect consumers' autonomy and well-being.